Minister for Education.
Sir, thank you very much for the call. The Marshall Liberal Government has invested significant funds in our Aboriginal Education Strategy 2019 to 2029. It's a 10-year strategy that seeks to lift educational outcomes and opportunities for Aboriginal learners across South Australia, seeing them have success in the early years, seeing them have success in schools and seeing them be on pathways towards achievement in life. It was with great pride that I was able to share with the SACE Board CE last year the great news that last year, in 2020, despite the challenges of the coronavirus pandemic, we indeed had record SACE completion for our Aboriginal learners here in South Australia. And at the same time, while that is great news for those learners in the upper secondary years, in the junior years, I can inform the House that when we are doing our reforms to literacy in the early years and introducing clarity around early years literacy instruction, including phonics, indeed, our phonics checks are showing as well as the uplift in the general public, the general figures for all students across South Australia. Our Aboriginal young learners in Year 1 are having among the most dramatic uplifts in their achievement in the early years reading. That's great. And there are some other case studies and parts of the Aboriginal Education Strategy that today I'd like to share with you and the House. They are important strategies and they bear the retelling. And I congratulate all of the team in the Education Department's Aboriginal Education team who are working on these, as well as those Aboriginal staff in our schools supporting our Aboriginal learners. One of the initiatives is an expansion of the Workabout program, particularly to support Aboriginal young people in Port Lincoln, the Murraylands, southern and western metropolitan regions to make a successful transition from study to employment, training or further education. This is a great program that we have radically increased support to. It offers a range of programs and services to support Aboriginal students. Through the Workabout Centre, Aboriginal students work towards SACE achievement, engage in career education and transition from school into training, employment and higher education. In Port Lincoln, for example, the Workabout Centre is working with local industry. A foundation course to support transition to employment is the 5 Steps to Work Readiness program, delivered in a culturally safe and comfortable environment, and it empowers Aboriginal students as they prepare to enter employment. Throughout last year, the Centre has supported students to research and identify employment opportunities in their local area. It supports students to create industry-specific resumes, cover letters, job applications and preparations for interviews. 14 students enrolled in the Workabout Centre have now gained employment as a result of that program. The pathways have included a mixture of casual and seasonal work, local industry work within fishing and aquaculture industries, work intrastate and in retail and hospitality. So one of the programs which I was particularly pleased to learn about when I was in Port Lincoln last year with the member for Flinders was indeed the works being done on the English as an additional language or dialect hub. It's a comprehensive online course that builds the knowledge and practice of educators to teach Aboriginal EALD learners, raising awareness of Aboriginal learners who may be learning standard Australian English as an additional language or dialect, and supports department staff to understand Aboriginal English as a legitimate dialect in its own right and the significance of this dialect in regards to culture and identity for the speakers. Can I tell you, the staff and the families who have engaged already with this program, it has been transformational in their empowerment as they're able to undergo their learning and their confidence as they interact with our schools. I was really pleased to learn about, when I was in Port Lincoln, the work of Jodie Kennedy, the hub coach, who is implementing a 2-tier coaching role covering implementation of that online learning directly alongside supporting teachers to add depth and meaning to the online resources. She's been providing intensive support to Port Lincoln Primary School and Port Lincoln High School, including working with classroom teachers focusing on the explicit teaching of writing and the use of EALD teaching strategies, support to the leadership and Aboriginal education team to co-plan whole-of-staff PLC sessions, and facilitating professional learning. It's having a big impact for many learners, many families, and I encourage all members to learn a bit about it. I also want to commend to the House the Aboriginal Learner Achievement Leaders Resource, which in September December 2019 was distributed to all schools across South Australia. It's easy enough to find information about this, but the work on data-informed planning, tracking and monitoring growth, assuring consistent high-quality classroom practice, rigorous evidence-based learning interventions, engaging Aboriginal families as partners in literacy and numeracy learning, and promoting the continuity of learning is having an impact in many schools, and I encourage members who are interested. I'd be happy to provide further information through detailed briefings as members would like.